Wuthering is a game that prioritizes player execution above all else. Even though version 2 has begun to expand more on team compositions and synergies, the primary goal of the endgame is less contingent on who you're using and more on how you use them. Most of WoW's featured units have been balanced around that. As such, virtually every attacker and support comes with their own profile of use cases, designed in such a way to ensure that no one character ends up being the definitive best. It also helps that we have multiple endgame combat formats: Tower of Adversity, Tactical Hologram, and Whimpering Wastes, each putting the player through a different set of circumstances that no one character can handle consistently without some drop in performance. There's one exception to all this, however: the healers. Since the beginning of WoW's release, healers have proven to be an essential component in every single party for many reasons, not the least of which being their universally beneficial outro skill, letting them provide ample support to their team despite being the third member. And while Verina enjoyed the lion's share of the metagame during its maiden voyage, midway through version 1 we were given Shorekeeper, another healing support. While the two have been considered more or less interchangeable with each other in terms of providing a baseline of utility, Shorekeeper has proven to be a slightly more optimal choice in a general setting, especially for the multitude of DPS units that came out post version 2, resulting in her being widely regarded as the single best character in the game, and further the most required character for any player interested in taking on WoW's endgame content. In light of her rerun taking place in version 2.2, I want to make a Why Everyone Plays episode on her, detailing exactly what about it makes her the only character to achieve a must-pull status. To start, we should first address the role healers take in this game. From the very beginning, Wuthering was intended to be more challenging than what mainstream gacha players are used to. Not molding levels of difficulty, but certainly not something you can just mentally AFK on and clear without even trying. Mechanics and execution take more precedence in this game, as evident by the presence of dodging and parrying serving as universal defensive and offensive measures. Theoretically, a player can kill a boss using only a singular character and without taking any damage at all, since you can parry enemy attacks to interrupt them, or dodge whatever cannot be parried. Begs the question then, what even is the point of taking a healer? In response to giving players the option to avoid or stop any attack enemies throw at them, the game was balanced around making doing so a necessity. The higher up you go in difficulty, enemies can easily dish out multiple thousands of damage in a single hit, and can even chain attacks together. Upon hitting the very ceiling of endgame though, more specifically holograms, the damage becomes so high a single combo is enough to wipe you out. As such, the primary focus of healers in this game is more about extending your margin for error, not necessarily just healing. For the vast majority of players, dodging and parrying every attack enemies throw at them is simply unreasonable to expect, and so what Shorekeeper, Verina, and the other healers aim to do is to make it more forgiving in other ways for when you do inevitably get hit by something. Of all the healers, Shorekeeper has the biggest safety cushion by a significant margin. Firstly, unlike Verina, whose utility scales off attack, Shorekeeper scales off health, causing her to become naturally tanky as she'll be around the 35 to 40k mark, while Verina will be as squishy as your healers if not more so. Basically, while on Shorekeeper, even against Alexa, say level 100 holograms, she can realistically face tank 1 or 2 big hits from them and still be alive to tell the tale. Meaning, if you're uncertain about how to navigate a particular phase, you can temporarily swap to your healer to double as the tank while you're searching for a window to attack. One other upside to her is that Shorekeeper can cast all of her abilities while mid-air due to her ability to attack mid-air, a distinction that carries a lot more impact when you consider Verina's ability to dodge, use her skill, or liberation while airborne. Yet for some reason she has an intro skill that pops her up in the air. In fact, most people recommend you avoid using Verina's intro at all because of that downside. Back to Shorekeeper though, she's the smoothest healer to play by a wide margin, as the other two healers, Baija and Verina, have something to them that makes them feel clunky to operate. The second safety cushion is found in one of her inherent skills. Every 10 minutes, so basically once per battle, Shorekeeper can protect herself or a teammate from dying upon sustaining fatal damage. Unlike Verina's insurance taking the form of a shield, Shorekeeper's insurance is just a flat heal for half her max health, though it does drain that amount from her own. As stated earlier, Shorekeeper on average holds about double the health of most other DPS and support units, meaning your party member practically gets a max revive added onto them that stays in effect. So not only does she give far more effective health than Verina does, but it doesn't expire due to being a heal instead of a shield. To be fair though, death insurance is death insurance, doesn't matter what form it takes. Understandably, there will be times where you get struck by an errant attack or make a mistake. Having Shorekeeper on board allows you to continue the fight without having to reset. Third safety cushion, and the most pivotal one in my opinion, is her outro skill, which I plan to revisit later for the second effect. I just want to talk about the first one. Up to 5 times per use of outro skill, whenever a character gets hit by an attack, you can still input a dash to have them instantly phase back to normal condition as if they triggered a dodge. In other words, Shorekeeper can provide dodge forgiveness to her team. You still take the damage, yes, but you get to keep moving around. The way most endgame bosses operate, they strike you back to back, so even if one attack doesn't kill you, the one coming right after it definitely will. Having this outro prevents you from getting comboed 100 to 0. So altogether, Shorekeeper offers multiple things that can save a run which no other healer is able to replicate, and these are on top of her ultimate providing a long-lasting healing buff keeping your party topped off. You can almost think of her as a pair of training wheels for anyone suffering from skill issue. Like me. Now, despite healing being obligatory in some ways due to it being highly unrealistic for most players to consistently dodge and parry every single attack in the game, especially while attempting to perform their own combos, it doesn't change the fact that as players become more experienced, they can and do eventually get better at dodging attacks, which lowers the importance of a healer since you're taking no damage. Fortunately, Kuro accounted for this by giving every healer some semblance of offensive utility in order for them to double as a healer and a buffer. Shorekeeper happens to offer the biggest range of buffs out of all of them. To start, her outro skill grants a 30-second 15% damage amp to the entire party, the same buff that Verena and Baichu carry. However, Shorekeeper can give a lot more thanks to her liberation. After performing 2 outro skills, her Stellar Realm grants up to 12.5% bonus crit rate and 25% bonus crit damage based on her energy regen. Considering you were going to spam energy on her echoes and stuff to begin with, being a healer and all, you don't have to go out of your way for this. More importantly though, that extra crit rate matters a ton. Most attackers in Wuwa, assuming they don't have a crit rate weapon, usually hang around 70 to 80% crit when built adequately sufficiently. High enough to where you can expect to crit most of your attacks, but not high enough to where it feasibly always does. Given most attackers in this game have key components to their kit that do big damage, missing a crit on bad RNG can be a crippling loss in DPS. For example, Carlotta's Final Bullet, Camellia's Forte Explosion, Chun-Li's Ultimate Burst, Brand's Anchor Drop. Virtually every party in this game has at least one giant screen nuke that they depend on for DPS, so getting everyone as close to max crit as possible can make all the difference between a solid run or a failed one. That's why it matters so much. Shorekeeper can continue to acquire more damage for your team if you get her S2, providing a massive 40% bonus attack, no small amount to attach to a buff that already affords up to 50 crit value for your team. Put together, Shorekeeper's offensive buffing capability is so good that most of the time she's actually better for your team's DPS than if you were to add another support, notably thanks to Rejuvenating Glow supplementing an additional 15% attack. In essence, even if you're one of those players who can dodge and parry everything, thereby having no use for a healer, Shorekeeper is still optimal for the purposes of DPS since you can get so much out of her. She's an optimal unit to have on your team when you're bad at the game, and she's still an optimal unit to have on your team when you're good at the game. Third reason for why she's the best character in the game would be her flexibility. In a game where the roster has so many different playstyles and quirks to them, not to mention there being 3 endgame modes against enemies who also have a number of things to account for, Shorekeeper is the most consistent support in the game because she covers all of those scenarios. 1. She has the longest possible uptime in the game. Both her outro skill and liberation have durations of 30 seconds, more than enough time for any single character in the game. Or I should say 2, whether we're talking long rotations like Camellia or short ones like Tian. She can also buff quick swap teams equally effectively. The generous time frame provided also means you can afford to lose a bit of time and still get your rotations off. Naturally, bosses and enemies are not punching bags. They're not going to sit there while you set up and do everything. There will be moments where you have to chase down enemies that jump across the map or have to avoid key stuff. Buffs that last 20 seconds are enough to hold out throughout your entire rotation, but usually not enough to account for anything else beyond that, such as having to run across the map to catch up to your target. Moreover, Shorekeeper can extend her liberation time to 40 seconds if you acquire her S1. Her ultimate lasts for so long you can make dinner, put away your laundry, do your taxes, and brew a pot of coffee, and there will still be time to undergo your rotation. So whether you're playing a fast character or a slow character, Shorekeeper can accommodate all of that. This aspect also aids in future-proofing her. Rotations across the board have become increasingly more layered around, I would say, since Camellia. While they're still easy to understand, units like Camellia, Phoebe, and Cantarella can eat up a noticeable amount of field time owing to their more elaborate combos than the likes of Encore, Jinxi, and Jian. If and when in the future we find more characters who need to stick around for a while, Shorekeeper's ability to last half a minute at the least will lend itself to keeping her relevant even if we get more healers who can specialize better than her. 2. She has range and coverage. One minor inconvenience of her counterpart is that her main source of healing, her photosynthesis mark, only heals the party when it's being attacked. As soon as the marked enemy dies, she has to apply it again on subsequent enemies, causing her sustain to only be fully optimal when fighting a boss. To Verena's credit, most enemies in Tower and Whimpering don't pose a threat to your life the same way holograms do, so it's not like you're pressed for healing in wave battles, but even then, the mark duration is only 12 seconds to a cooldown of 25. So from a healing point of view, Shorekeeper is the most consistent. Furthermore, the sheer size of Shorekeeper's ultimate also ensures you'll be receiving this healing and buffs no matter what, as it practically covers the whole arena space, assuming S1. 3. She even helps out in AoE scenarios. Shorekeeper can charge up her Forte circuit very quickly, and when using the empowered heavy attack, she can group enemies together in a decently wide radius. Same goes for her basic attack 3. Prior to Rocha, Shorekeeper was one of only 2 reliable grouping supports in the game next to Yang. She is very convenient to bring along for farming teams in passive fields and whatnot thanks to corralling mobs together. Not to mention, she's super helpful to have in tower and whimpering for that consistent grouping. Shorekeeper essentially covers every possible general aspect of the game right now. She's got healing, death insurance, dodge forgiveness, bonus damage, bonus crit damage, crowd control. She can play for long rotation parties or short ones, quick swap or hyper carry. She's the support character right now. Not to say she invalidates other healers, most would agree that Verina's coordinated attacks and extremely fast concerto are enough to merit using her for certain parties like Jinchi, or in whimpering to where you need to switch fast to give your DPS ample time. But if a new player were to ask me who's a must-have on their account, the only one who can aptly fit that definition would be Shorekeeper. She's probably the most overpowered character in the game, compatible with all types of playstyles and all types of game modes. To add on to that, while not of major import, it's a nice benefit that she's got something special going on with the main character, offering 10% bonus energy to them. As we get more elements of Rover, there might come a time where that energy bonus begins to matter more. But for right now anyway, it's yet another contribution to why she's easy for everyone to pick up. Everyone has Rover. That being said, in the spirit of fairness, I do want to go over one problem I see with the character. In light of how all-purpose she is, and not in a jack-of-all-trades manner but in a master of all, I feel like Shorekeeper raised the bar for healing supports really high really quickly. Thankfully, I don't think this will turn into as pervasive of an issue as Honkai Star Rail sustains because there's more you can do from a playstyle point of view. But they essentially made it so any subsequent 5-star healer would have to vastly outperform her in a specific way to warrant being sought after. Like, she set the bar so high, the next healer would have to do something crazy unique to distinguish himself. If we're being optimistic, however, I do think that presents a cool opportunity. Shorekeeper's main downside is that she kinda sucks at generating concerto unless you have variation or a signature weapon, which can cause you to get stuck on her for some time before you can swap out, and on top of that, her liberation requires 2 outros to happen one after another to get full strength. As stated before, most quickswap teams might struggle on that front given their lack of care for outros, so maybe they can make a healer that specifically works in quickswap teams. Perhaps a healing support with an ability that grows in strength the more times you switch between resonators. But point being, for Kuro to release more appealing sustain units, they'll automatically be compared to Shorekeeper, and that can be a pretty tough standard to meet, at least in a way that doesn't power creep the game. Even if they were to release healers that had those element status effects like Frazzle and Erosion, they would still have to bring impressive buffs to the table if they want to stand out. Otherwise, I have a feeling Shorekeeper will just be better than them regardless. Kind of a nitpick though. All in all, it would be no exaggeration to call Shorekeeper the best unit in the game with unquestionably the highest pull value too. No other character in Wuthering Waves, I would say, is a definitive must pull except her. She is the highest party flexibility in the game, the highest practical healing in the game, and the best general buffing profile out of any character. It's safe to say we'll be using her for quite some time. Anyway, what do you guys think about Shorekeeper? Do you agree with my points, or do you think I might be overrating her? Also, let me know your thoughts on what I just talked about regarding making more healers. I'm curious. That concludes my Why Everyone Plays episode on Shorekeeper, so if you enjoyed the video, a like and subscribe would be much appreciated. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Vars, join my Discord server, and check out my Why Everyone Plays Rover if you haven't yet. I'd say it still holds up even today. But till next time, thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.